Hey, I'm Marcus Celestin. I spent over a decade in corporate operations. I was a chief operating officer of a mid-sized company. I ran enterprise system rollouts, and now I advise businesses on getting ready for AI. The session today is AI 101 for corporate. No hype, no jargon, just a practical look at how to actually use AI in your day-to-day job. By the end of this, you'll know what these tools are actually good at, how to start using them this week, and what to watch out for. Let's get into it. Quick background so you know where this is coming from. I spent over a decade leading enterprise programs and operations, most recently as a COO of an aerospace company where I ran a 200-person organization across US and Canada. Before that, I led enterprise system rollouts. I've had roles in corporate strategy, doing a host of improvement initiatives. During these enterprise system rollouts, these were the kind where you're training hundreds of people on a brand new system that they did not ask for. Today, I run Celestin Group, where I help businesses figure out where they actually stand on AI readiness. This isn't theory for me. This is the same job I've been doing for years, just pointed at a brand new set of tools. Here's the roadmap for the next 20-ish minutes. We'll start with the big picture, cutting through the hype and talk about what AI actually is right now. Then we'll walk through three tools you've probably heard of: Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini, and when each one makes the most sense for you. From there, we'll get tactical, real examples of where AI actually helps in a normal corporate job, how to prompt it well, and where you need to stay careful. And we'll close with three specific things you can try this week. Not someday, but this week. So before we get too far into this, let's demystify a little bit. So AI right now is a tool that's very good at a specific set of tasks: drafting, summarizing, analyzing, brainstorming. It's not about replacement for your judgment. That's one of the key things I want to underscore here. Judgment is the one thing we're not looking to replace here. It's not magic, and it's not a person. It doesn't know your business, your org chart, and your customer relationships unless you tell it. What it is genuinely good at is speeding up the parts of your job that involve turning a blank page into a first draft or turning a pile of information into something usable. I often say it's really good at getting version one. Doesn't necessarily mean it's your final draft, but it's really good at getting something going when you're starting from nothing. So keep that frame in mind for the rest of this. It's a tool. Not yet a good coworker, not yet a coworker, even though it can be used as an aid in certain capacities. And it's definitely not a replacement for you. The number one thing I hear from corporate employees is some version of AI is going to take my job. Here's the more honest version of that fear. AI doesn't replace roles, it replaces tasks, specifically the repetitive, low judgment parts of almost every role. We all have them. There are things we do every day that are lower value and not higher value for our jobs. Those are the pieces where AI can be a huge complement to the work that you do, not that it's going to take your whole job. So I just want to be clear about that. The people who actually lose ground aren't the ones whose job include those tasks. It's the one who refuse to learn the tool while their peers do. So if all your peers are learning this and you're not learning this, they're going to be able to be more efficient and focus on those higher value tasks, which make them more valuable to the organization. The skill that matters now isn't can you avoid AI, it's can you direct it well. And that's the key thing to keep in mind as we progress forward is, do you have an ability to understand the tool and use it to your benefit? The second misconception I want to debunk: I already use AI. My phone has autocomplete. Sure, but there's automation running in the background, not you actually directing a tool to do real work. So anything like autocomplete, spell check, any sort of editing or tools that are just simply doing a cursory glance like that are not AI, not really AI. There's a real difference between AI quietly doing something to your typing and you deliberately using AI to draft a document, analyze a data set, think through a decision. This session is about the second kind, the kind where you're actually in the driver's seat making real decisions for your business. The third one, and I hear this one a lot from people who aren't in technical roles: this is too complicated, it's not for me. It's really not. I've spent the bulk of my career in business systems, but I've never considered myself someone technical. And what these AI tools have opened up for me is to really bridge the gap between not always relying on technical resources to be able to produce a solution and not needing to have that technical deep understanding to make progress. So if you can describe what you want in a normal sentence, the way you'd explain the task to a new hire, you already have the core skill. So being able to describe something, being able to ask good questions and continue to push that curiosity and description will be huge for success in the use of AI. The learning curve here is a weekend of practice, not a degree, something that you integrate seamlessly over time. It's actually the whole point of this session is to close that gap. So you don't feel like you need a significant amount of education to get going with this, but something that you can get started with and iterate on over time. So let's talk about the actual tools. These are the ones you've probably already heard of: Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini. I'll give you a fast, honest rundown of each one. So when it comes to Claude, Claude's parent company is Anthropic. It has a lot of strengths when it comes to writing, editing, working with long documents, particularly strong in this area without losing the thread. This is one that I use on a daily basis. It has a feature called projects that lets you kind of group together some of the asks that you're making of the tool so that there's persistent context in your questioning. What does that mean? When you provide context and information to Claude in a project, it keeps that knowledge relevant to any further conversation that you have in that project. So you're not having to continually re-explain that my company makes widgets, our customers fall into this group of people, our employee processes are XYZ. This information remains persistent within the AI tool, within the project. So that context is kept and your answers are catered with that context in mind. Every time you open a task, you don't have to re-explain this, which is really valuable. If your work involves a lot of writing, editing, long document analysis, this might be a good tool for you. If you need any document generation, PowerPoint generation, or feedback and improvements to this, Claude can be quite helpful for this. Then when you look at ChatGPT, whose parent company is OpenAI, who produces the tool, this is one of the most popular ones people have heard of. One of the really big ones that kind of hit the market and put AI use and chat AI on the map here for you. It's got a very broad ecosystem, a lot of custom GPTs that exist out there, plugins, and a huge number of integrations. Your company could also already have a license for this. Could be something that you're already using, already exists out there. A lot of people have the app on their phone to ask simple questions to in place of what might have been kind of Googled before. But it's genuinely a solid general purpose starting point if you're brand new to this. ChatGPT is a very low barrier to entry use of tool where you can start to develop an understanding of what these tools are capable of by starting and getting set up in that particular system. And then third is Gemini. Gemini is the tool from Google. Real advantage here isn't necessarily its raw capability, but its integration poises a unique position compared to the two tools that I ran through previously. If your company runs on Google Workspace, so Docs, Sheets, Gmail, Gemini is built directly into the tools you're already using every day. So if you use a lot of Google Suite, this could be a potentially pretty good tool for you to be able to use to help drive your business forward and to help make things integrate a little more seamlessly than perhaps other areas or other tools that I've run through. A lot of corporate employees, convenience is a deciding factor. So integration is really important, where perhaps technical strength might not be the biggest piece of this. Of course, there is so much more to each of these different tools. This is AI 101 today, not 102 or 202. This is something that is really helping to get people to understand initial use of tools. As time goes on and you better understand your requirements, you might determine that there are tools outside of this tool set, that you're able to use, and you might determine that some are better over time. But it's really important to kind of get your feet wet and understand what the different tools are that exist in the market so that you can better understand what is going to serve you in your role and for your business. So which one should you actually use? Simple framework. If your work is heavy on writing and analysis, perhaps you should start with Claude. You need long document review, long document generation. Might be good for you to start with Claude. If you want something general purpose, widely supported option, your company might already have access to it, or it's really easy to get access to, might be ChatGPT. If you work in Google Workspace, Google Suite, might be good to consider Gemini. And again, you honestly can't go wrong trying more than one, but pick one to start with this week rather than researching forever. So in action here, for you to take away is to pick one of these to start working with if you haven't, or try out some tools. So you're not just spending too much time in research, but you're actually starting to get your hands in some of these tools and understand the landscape that exists surrounding them. That was kind of the overview. Now we're going to get tactical here. We want to know how AI can help you in your 9 to 5, because at the end of the day, you need AI to work for you so that you can focus on the things that you want to, make your job easier so you are focused on those higher value activities. So we're going to talk through 6 places where AI is earning its keep for a normal corporate job. These are not the edge cases. These are the ones that you do every single week and the ones that are really applicable to normal corporate jobs. So 6 categories we're going to cover where most corporate employees actually could use this. So drafting emails and communication. It's kind of one of the lower value ones, but it's an important thing to keep in mind. Prepping for and summarizing meetings. If you are doing a lot of meeting prep work, this can be a huge benefit for you. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Drafting documents from scratch. Everybody knows how difficult it is to put together large pieces of content for work. And so this could be a big benefit. Analyzing data or messy spreadsheets is another area where this could be very, very valuable. Doing a first pass for research, and then lastly, editing or rewriting things you've already drafted. We'll walk through 4 examples with real examples of each of these. Some of the key things to think about is with all 6 of these, there are some of these areas that are higher impact and some that are lower. Data and spreadsheet analysis is really important to keep in mind because there are so many different ways to look at data. Of course, there's a lot of assumptions which underlie all of this. If you have to trust the quality of the data, you have to validate that the output is actually something that's going to be beneficial and that you agree with. But you can start drafting emails and communications where you need to send out an announcement to your team. You need to draft a new policy. Really easy way to get a big benefit from that now. Perhaps you're struggling with something. You need to cost save in a certain area. You need to understand why something's going wrong in a particular part of your business. Data and spreadsheet analysis is a really great way to throw data into an AI tool and to see what it might get you thinking about. It could reinforce some of the assumptions that you already have in place, or it could be challenging your thoughts to think elsewhere, somewhere where you have not quite thought yet. So let's start with one of the areas that people don't necessarily expect. So say you have a live tracker or a dashboard, or you need this, and it's something that you've been meaning to put in a request for, and you've been waiting a week on an analyst or IT. I did this recently with a client of mine, putting in together a P&L dashboard. So instead of waiting, I spent a little bit of time describing exactly what I need, and I had a working version that day. I kept improving it live to provide better financial insight to me so that I could better decision make and that my client can better decision make for their business. It's not just drafting a paragraph, but it's building something you can actually keep using. So you can build working tools, not just drafts pretty quickly. Now, important thing to underscore here is if you're building tools that typically require IT or an analyst or a subject matter expert, do make sure that you don't skip that portion of it and that you don't just build tools all willy-nilly and expect them to meet all of the business requirements that you have here without doing the validation that underlies and ensures that it's giving you the right information. But that saves a lot of legwork getting that tool built up front and not just a draft. Meeting prep. So I don't know if you're like me, but I am in lots of meetings every week with different clients talking through what decisions, who owns something, what open questions exist. It takes a lot of time to put together work. For me, I work in consulting, so my time is really important, especially if my clients are paying me by the hour. So if I can do work that helps to minimize the amount of time that I'm capturing notes, assigning action items, and re-going through actions that might have fallen out of a meeting, that allows me to focus on more higher value activities for my clients and make a bigger impact for them. So this is a small one. A lot of people go to meetings and have actions that come out of it or need to drive meetings with your teams or working sessions. Big impact here without a lot of effort to get this one going. Next one being data and spreadsheet analysis. I talked about this one a little bit, but I had an issue last week where we were trying to determine what was causing an issue within a process. We had tons of data. I was able to dump it into Claude to say, what do you think is the challenge here? Or if you were going to investigate this challenge, what are the top 5 places you would start? some of which were obvious to me, of places which we should begin as a starting point. But where we arrived as a final answer was something that was a little different because of the thought challenges that were provided to us from the AI tool. Research and first drafts. Research is cumbersome. It can be challenging to go through different areas and sources. Ask AI to help synthesize what's known out there. Flag what you might need for verification. The key thing to keep in mind here is, depending upon what that research will be used for, make sure that you're challenging and understanding sources of data that do underlie research. But at least pulling stuff and getting you going in that path is something that can be done very easily with the AI tools that exist today, versus having to comb through a lot of stuff and determine what may or may not be useful from scratch.
Before we get into how to prompt well, here's the thing almost everyone misses. Most people stop at asking AI one question at a time. Draft this email, summarize that meeting, and then start completely over the next time. That's using AI. It's not the same as compounding it. The real unlock is giving it your context once, something like a Claude project, and then using it to actually build something you keep using. A live dashboard, a running tracker, an internal tool your team touches every week. That's the step worth taking once you're comfortable with the basics. Stop treating AI like a vending machine for one-off answers or Q&A and start treating it like a builder you're directing. Okay, so here's how to prompt well. A quick primer, because this is where most people get stuck. Be specific about the task, not just the topic. Help me with this email is worse than draft a 2-paragraph update to my VP about this project delay, using a direct tone. Give it context. Who's the audience? Who do you want this sent to? What's the tone? Is it firm? Is it light? Is it lighthearted? And what constraints exist? Add an additional detail that you need. Treat the first response that AI produces as a draft, not as your final answer. Ask it to revise, tighten, or take a different angle. Challenge it to be sharper or more closely meet the needs of what you're looking for. And always, always, always review what comes out before it goes anywhere near a client, your boss, a customer, spreadsheet that matters. Validate. And here's the other half of this, where to stay careful. Validate anything that touches real numbers or real decision. Every time, no exceptions. Don't paste confidential or sensitive company data into a general tool unless your company has specifically approved that use. For anything high stakes, loop in the actual subject matter expert. A CFO looks at real financials, lawyer to look at contracts. Don't assume that AI is a substitute for subject matter expertise. The big one, the biggest one. You cannot outsource your judgment to AI. It expands how much data and how many angles you can look at. It does not replace the deciding part. That is still you, and that is the human component that AI will not replace anytime soon. You still need to be able to think critically, need to review the output, and make sure that you do that every single time. Here's how to actually start this week, not someday. We're not starting this a month from now. We're starting this today, and we are going to start using AI for our jobs today. So step one, pick one task you genuinely dread doing every week. Is it a status report? Is it a summary? A first draft email? What is something that you really don't like doing every week? Not necessarily the largest problem that comes across your plate, but something that you don't really enjoy. Step two, run that exact task through AI once and honestly evaluate what comes back. Don't grade it against perfection. Grade it against what you'd have produced in the same 5 minutes. So think about how quickly it produced something for you versus how quickly you could have produced something that fast. Again, this is becoming a first draft for you, not the final draft. Step three, if it worked, make it a habit. If it didn't quite land, adjust what you told it and try again. That's the whole loop. You don't need a training program. You need one real task and a week of trying. Repeat, iterate, and get better. Now let's bring it home. AI replaces tasks, not judgment, and definitely not you. Pick one tool from the 3 we covered and actually start using it this week instead of researching forever. Validate anything that matters. Numbers, decisions, anything client-facing, anything that goes beyond you at this point before it goes anywhere. Don't send it and look later. AI does make mistakes, which is why the judgment piece is so important. And honestly, the gap between people who use these tools well and the people who don't is quickly becoming a real career gap. the same way basic spreadsheet skills became a non-negotiable 20 years ago. This is AI 101. If you want a more honest, structured read on where your own team or business actually stands before you roll any of this out more broadly, I put together a free AI Readiness Roadmap. Reach out to me directly, marcus@celestin-group.com, and I'll send it your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.